Hey everybody, I'm just doing a little table update this week for my hump day, both a table update and just sort of things to come. I did one of these a month or two ago, and I had I would say a little bit of a dry spell of painting where I was really enjoying painting while I was doing it, but I was taking lots of time off in between and getting distracted with life, and occasionally that happens, and so my productivity has not been as high this winter, I should say, late, post-holidays, Christmas time to now, as I would have liked. I mean, I have done some terrain, both Savage Core and Saga, and I think in some ways that might skew my view on my productivity as well. I just haven't painted as many miniatures, but in the end, I do think that I have not been as productive as I usually am, and so because of that, I still have things that were in my last video of things to come, but it has shifted forward, and I did want to talk a little bit today about what I'll be working on, and some things have changed. Today I'm going to be talking about DBA, and I'm going to be talking about Saga and Savage Core. Now, what I'm working on right now, and I'll just shift the camera a bit, what I'm working on right now is Savage Core Encounters, and I've just got the base paint on 4 encounters that can wander onto the board for Savage Core. I have the sort of German treasure hunter. I have the sort of I just view him as sort of like a Tarzan style figure, although what I tried to do, I think his name was Kazar, I'm trying to remember from Marvel, there was a character that was very similar, and I painted him up more like that, although he also looks very similar to the way that Lucidai painted. I almost used the same exact hairstyles, like color schemes, as the Lucidai in this one. My favorite one is actually this one here, which is the Lost Explorer. I just like the detail, and she's got like a backpack and stuff. I just think it's just a very cool model. I like it quite a bit. And then there's also the Usurper. And so they all have their own rules, and can, like, when you and your opponent are playing a game, they can wander on the board. And one of the things that I like is, despite the fact that Savage Core isn't meant to be like a movie set, or a production, that you're playing in a game, like games like ZTV, I kind of get that feeling in some ways, because a lot of this stuff's been covered in cinema, and it's almost as if you're playing a game when, like, the actors aren't there. Like, this is what the world is like when, like, the movie's not going on. But then occasionally, like, your warbands will end up in a scene, and, like, one of these guys will run through, and that's the encounter. And it's just kind of funny when you think about it that way, because these are like character models. They're characters. Whereas, although you have bosses that are like characters in your groups, a lot of the knobs are like your regular guys. And so I really think that sort of concept is kind of neat, where you have like these characters that sometimes end up and influence your game when they kind of run in. Now a character can also be a T-Rex, and so so yeah, very cool. And so I am looking forward to finishing these guys up, and these guys have been good to kind of get myself out of a little bit of a funk as far as getting a bit more productive in painting. I'm enjoying painting them, and so that's really cool. Nothing really to show here, but as you know, I have just sort of, I used plaster as opposed to epoxy sculpt on the base of this Ottawa native that I'm going to do the painting tutorial on soon, that I talked about on the 500 video a little ways back. I used plaster, even though I like epoxy sculpt a little bit better, only because I've always used plaster on these miniatures, and I just wanted to keep it the same look. Because the actual finish, it's kind of white here, so you really can't see it, but the finish with this particular plaster, I find, ends up looking a lot like roots and stuff when I put it on. When I put my washes in, I do my painting, it's a nice forest floor look. And I find the epoxy sculpt is a little different, and when I use my sculpting tools, the natural sort of look of it ends up being a little bit different, and it's more conducive to stonework and slate and things than just earthy ground. And so I think because it's a stiffer medium, that may be the case, that just because when I put plaster on, it's so goopy that when I use my spatula and put it on, it ends up with a lot of organic looking features on the surface, whereas you can do anything with either one if you just take the time and sculpt it, but just it's easier to make other looking kinds of ground, harder surface ground with the epoxy sculpt, just because it's a thicker, tough surface, and it just ends up very different naturally as it cures, and as you just lay it down, it has a different sort of natural, I don't know the best way to say it. It's just its natural way of laying it down just ends up having a different feature if you don't put much work into it than the plaster. Then, as I mentioned in my last update video, I'm definitely, this is sort of the winter spring of Saga because of the 2.0 release. So after having done the animal pack, I will then do now the civilians to just kind of bring more character to my boards, and potentially when the Book of Battle comes out, there'll be potentially some scenarios with them, but either way it's okay. I actually kind of like having character, even if it's not inherent to the rules of the game. I like character on my boards, and so that'll be nice. And I'll get back to Saga because I have, of course, another project for Saga. But before I... actually, I think what I'm going to do next, I'm a little out of order, is I've mentioned this on the channel, I've been playing a lot of DBA. Sorry, I'm turning the camera here as I'm talking, so I can't edit it, but I'm just going to move this camera over. Okay. I've been playing a fair bit of DBA here and there since maybe November, and so I would say I say fair bit, but I probably have about 10 games under my belt. I've played a few sessions of like 2 to 3 games in each session, 3 or 4, and so I've really enjoyed it. I've really not had a game of DBA that I've not enjoyed. Like every single game I've enjoyed, and in many cases, even when I lose, I actually enjoy the game quite a bit. Like we've had some really good games, and that should go without saying, but honestly, it's just I find that in a lot of games. Like I can actually really enjoy a loss that was actually like kind of a close battle, and like was just a good event and created a good narrative, maybe had a lot of good strategy unfolding and things like that. What I have here is I've inherited a number of DBA armies from a friend, and that's just not playing DBA at this time. Now, out of all of them, the Indian Nation army that I inherited dwarfs everything else. And so I have, I believe, an ancient Egyptian army that's probably 12 elements, which is the standard size for a DBA game, for those of you that don't play it. I have some Dark Ages. I have to kind of go through them, but they're close to 12 elements or a little shy, but I have a good starting point if I want to add on to them. And then I have this army, which really dwarfs everything else. I mean, I probably have 4 armies here. I have close to 40 elements. I even have stuff that's not here. And there are 2 lines here. These 4 bases of... I keep forgetting the name of these guys that are just 2 on a base, because I've played the DBA, but I'm still having trouble with some of the terminology. But these ones here, as well as this whole line here of archers, of 4 and 3 archers. They're 4 to a base and 3 to a base. Or one particular, they're minifigs, I believe. And I think the rest is Old Glory. And they're not too much different in size, but there's definitely some difference in size when you get up close and look at them. But having said that, I have like an excess of an army of both of them, and so it really doesn't matter a whole lot. I suppose I will have to mix them together if I want to do the archers and things because I don't think I have... Oh no, I have archers and these guys too, so I don't even think I need to mix them together if I don't want to, but I have 2 chariots in the back and a chariot here. And I have a like a stronghold, or I should say a camp is what it's called, that has to be painted up and things. I have 4 elephants, one of them being a leader. I have a lot of variety here. Like I believe these are blades. I mean, they're swords, but because they're 3 to a base. I don't remember if these are. Sometimes I know when there's 3 elements versus 4, it's referred to as fast, and it changes it. But these are either fast blades or blades. I've got the groups with 2 on a base here, and they're not archers, even though some of them have like a bow. Like the other one has a sword, so they're just. And like I said, I forget the name of that unit style. It's the one I always can't seem to remember. I have some blades that are actually 4 on a base, just a couple of them. And then I have a fair bit of cavalry. I've got fast cavalry, I know, is 2 per base, and I've got 4 of them there. And then I've got a bunch of just regular cavalry. So 3 to a base, 4 of them. And then I just have a boatload of archers. And so I think what I'm going to do, this hasn't calculated into my painting plans for the spring, but because I'm really enjoying it, I'm playing it a lot, and I've just keep putting it out there in my head, and I like to mix things up. I think I'm going to finish my Savage Core and then work in my tutorial as I can, just on that one miniature, the native. And I think I'm going to do this before I hit the Saga Civilians. And, you know, it's really just going to be depending on how I feel. I'm either going to do my Saga Civilians or I'm going to do this next. But that's kind of what I'm working on. Saga Civilians are just... It'll be a little more work than the Animal Pack, because of course they're miniatures with different colors and things. Although having said that, I don't think I need to think about it as much, because I found those animals, I really kind of researched and thought about it a lot to determine how to do them. But I'm going to do one of these 2 projects, really just depending on what I feel at the moment next, after I finish these other things. And then after that, I didn't pull it out because there's just too much stuff, but I'm going to then hit my Scottish Saga Warband, like I talked about. That's really going to probably cover me for a while as far as painting. I do have a project that I've not announced that'll be coming up after that. It's really, I really am enjoying Savage Core, and I want to get some time and more games for that and paint up these figs. But I have sort of a project. At the time when I was picking up Savage Core and waiting, like kind of trying to get my table ready and everything, a friend had, someone I know had actually shown a project that I really was interested in, and as a game. And I just picked up some stuff on eBay. I had a couple of lots for each side of it where I got a really good deal. And I still haven't, although the rules are available online, I haven't bought the rules, like a physical copy, because I just put this out there as a project to do in the future. And so I'm going to work on my Saga and these things, and then there will be that project that I'll announce and will come up later on. And it's sort of a fantasy style game of the sort of, in some ways, of the size of Savage Core and comparable in that sense. It's sort of a niche game. And so, yeah. So, lots going on. I will have to research a bit how to paint East Indian or the skin. I've never done that before. It will be different than, I know, Native American skin that I'm used to painting for musket and tomahawks. And so that will be interesting as a, just sort of as a side project, just to paint something different. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So kind of a brief Heresy Hump Day today. I don't have a full typical schedule, but I'm using this time slot just to do an update this week. Okay, everybody. Hope that your weeks are going well, and take care.